For most of your life, you were told a story. Pay off your house, own it free and clear, burn the mortgage, and you will finally be safe. It is one of the most deeply held beliefs in American life, passed down like a family heirloom. And for a great many people, a paid-off home truly is a cornerstone of a secure retirement. But there is a quieter truth hidden inside those paid-off walls, one that almost no one talks about, and it can cost a retiree real money, year after year, without them ever feeling the bill arrive. It has a name among the people who think carefully about these things. They call it dead equity, and understanding it might change how you see the single largest asset most people own. I want to tell you about a couple. We'll call them George and Helen, because those are not their real names, but their situation is one I saw again and again over the years, in one form or another. George and Helen had done the responsible thing, the thing everyone praises. They had paid off their large family home years ahead of schedule. They owned it outright, every brick of it. On paper, they were sitting on a small fortune, because that house had grown enormously in value over the decades. Their neighbors envied them. Their children were proud of them, and yet, month after month, George and Helen felt a strange, quiet tightness in their finances that they could not explain. They were, in the truest sense, rich on paper and squeezed in real life. And the reason was sitting all around them, in the very walls they were so proud of. By the end of this, you will understand exactly what dead equity is, the real and ongoing costs of holding a large paid-off home that nobody puts on a statement, the difference between a home that shelters you and one that quietly bills you, and the range of choices the most clear-eyed retirees I ever knew used to bring that sleeping money back to life. Because this is not a video telling you to sell your home. It is a video asking you to see it clearly, perhaps for the first time, as both a place you love and a financial decision you are making every single day, simply by staying. Now, the same honesty I always give you, and it matters especially here. Your home is not only a financial asset, it is memories, it is comfort, it is the place your grandchildren know. I am not going to reduce that to a spreadsheet, and I would be a fool to try. What I am going to do is show you the financial side clearly, so that whatever you decide it with open eyes, weighing what the house gives you against what it quietly takes. That balance is yours alone to strike. My job is only to make sure you can see both sides of it. So let's start with the idea itself. What exactly is dead equity? Equity is simply the value of your home that you actually own. If your house is worth a certain amount and you owe nothing on it, then all of that value is your equity. It is wealth. Real wealth, that belongs to you. But here is the problem, and it is the whole problem. That wealth is frozen. It is locked inside the walls. You cannot spend it. You cannot live on it. You cannot use it to pay a medical bill or take a trip or help a grandchild through school. It just sits there, being worth a great deal, while you go about your retirement sometimes pinching pennies to get by. That is why they call it dead. Not because it has no value, but because the value is asleep, doing nothing for you, while you may be the one going without. Think about how strange that really is. If George and Helen had that same amount of money invested, it could be generating income for them year after year, helping to fund their retirement. Instead, it is sitting silently in the form of a house, generating nothing, while they feel squeezed. They are, in a sense, some of the wealthiest people on their street, and also some of the most cash-starved. The wealth is real. It is just doing absolutely nothing for the people who own it. But dead equity is only half the story, and honestly, it is the gentler half. Because a large paid-off home does not just fail to generate money, it actively costs money every single year in ways that are so normal and so expected that people stop even seeing them. Let me walk you through the bills that never go away, no matter how paid off that house is. The first one is property taxes. You never truly own your home free and clear, not really, because the property taxes never stop, and on a large home that has appreciated in value, they can be substantial, and they tend to rise year after year. In retirement, on a fixed income, a rising property tax bill on a big house is a genuine strain, and it is one you cannot escape simply by having paid off the mortgage. The mortgage ends. The taxes are forever. The second is insurance, which has been climbing steeply for many homeowners, and a larger, more valuable home costs more to insure. The third is maintenance, and this is the one people underestimate the most. A house is a living thing that is always slowly falling apart. The roof, the furnace, the water heater, the plumbing, the paint, the thousand small failures that a big older home produces on its own schedule, never yours. A common rule of thumb is that maintenance alone can cost a meaningful percentage of a home's value every single year. And on a large home, that is real money, leaving your pocket year after year. And the fourth cost is the quietest of all. It is the heating and the cooling, the cleaning and the upkeep of space you no longer use. The empty bedrooms, the formal dining room used twice a year, the basement, the second staircase, the rooms that exist now only as storage for a life that has already moved on. You are paying every month to maintain square footage that serves no purpose except memory. And memory is precious, truly. But it is worth knowing the price of it, so you can decide if that is how you want to spend your money. Now let me put these four costs together, because individually each one sounds manageable, and it is only when you stack them that the truth becomes clear. Add up the property taxes, the insurance, the ongoing maintenance, and the wasted energy and upkeep of unused space, and for a large, valuable, older home, the total can run into many thousands of dollars every single year, year after year. That is money leaving the pockets of people who, on paper, are wealthy. Now compare that to what a smaller, newer, more efficient home would cost to run, and the gap between the two is not small. That gap is what George and Helen were feeling as tightness. It was not their imagination. It was arithmetic, quietly working against them every month, hidden inside a decision everyone had congratulated them for making. And here is the part that makes it so hard to see. None of these costs arrive as a shock. There is no single terrible bill, no dramatic moment. It is death by 1,000 ordinary payments, each one so normal that you never question it. The tax bill comes once a year and you simply pay it. The furnace breaks and you simply fix it. The insurance renews at a higher number and you sigh and move on. No single one of them ever forces you to sit down and ask the bigger question, which is exactly how a large home can quietly drain a retirement for a decade without anyone ever naming what is happening. Let me say something directly to you, because I suspect this is landing close to home for some of you. If you are sitting in a big, quiet, paid-off house right now, feeling that exact tightness that George and Helen felt, the strange gap between how wealthy you look and how squeezed you feel, then I want you to know you are not imagining it, and you are not doing anything wrong. You are simply caught in something almost no one ever explained to you. That is what this channel is for, pulling these hidden things into the light. So subscribe and stay with me, because now I want to show you what the clear-eyed ones actually did about it, and there is more than one good answer. So what are the options? What did the retirees who saw this clearly actually do? And I want to stress that there is no single right answer here, because this depends enormously on your life, your health, your attachment to the home, and your family. But let me lay out the real choices, honestly, including the drawbacks of each. The first and most complete solution is to downsize. To sell the large home, unlock all of that dead equity in one stroke, and move to something smaller, newer, and far cheaper to run. This does two powerful things at once. It brings that frozen wealth back to life, where it can be invested and generate income or simply fund the retirement you actually want. And it slashes all four of those ongoing costs: the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, the wasted space, often dramatically. The retirees I knew who did this well frequently told me the same surprising thing. They did not miss the big house at all. They missed the idea of it far more than the reality. What they gained, in money and in freedom from upkeep, they felt every single day. What they lost, they discovered they had already stopped using years ago. But downsizing is not free of pain, and I would be dishonest to pretend otherwise. Moving is exhausting, especially as we age. Leaving a home full of decades of memory is a genuine grief, not to be waved away. And in some markets, smaller homes are not as cheap as people expect, so the math has to be checked carefully rather than assumed. Downsizing is powerful, but it is a real-life decision, not just a financial one, and it deserves to be weighed as such. There is also a timing question that the wise ones paid attention to, and it is worth mentioning plainly. Downsizing is far easier at 70 than it is at 80, and far easier at 80 than it is after a health crisis forces the decision on you in an emergency. Many people wait until their hand is forced, until a fall or an illness makes the big house impossible, and then the move happens in a rush, under stress, at the worst possible time, often decided by their children rather than by them. The retirees who handled this best tended to make the choice while they were still strong enough to make it calmly, on their own terms, choosing their next home rather than having it chosen for them. If you are going to move at all, there is real wisdom in moving while it is still your decision to make, not a crisis to react to. And there is one more quiet benefit to downsizing that people rarely mention. A smaller, simpler, single-level home is very often a safer and easier place to grow old. No steep staircases to fall down, less to clean, less to fear, less to manage as energy fades. Sometimes the financial case and the practical case for the later years point in exactly the same direction, and the big beloved house, for all its memories, is simply not the easiest place to be very old. The second option, for those who truly do not want to leave, is to find a way to tap the equity while staying in the home. There are financial tools designed to let older homeowners draw on their home's value without selling, turning some of that dead equity into usable money while they continue to live there. I am going to be very careful here, because these tools are complex. They carry real costs and real risks, and they are not right for everyone, and some of them have a troubled history and deserve deep scrutiny before anyone signs anything. I am not recommending them. I am telling you they exist, so that you know the landscape. If you ever consider one, it is essential to sit down with a trusted, fee-only advisor, someone who charges a flat, honest fee and does not earn a commission on what they sell you, and to understand every single detail before committing. This is not a decision to make from a television commercial. The third option is the simplest, and it is entirely valid. Do nothing, but do it on purpose. You may look clearly at all of this, understand the dead equity, understand the ongoing costs, and decide that the home is worth it to you anyway. That the memories, the comfort, the stability, the gift of leaving it to your children, outweigh the financial cost. That is a perfectly good decision. It is a wonderful decision, in fact, when it is made with open eyes. The tragedy is never the person who chooses to keep their home knowing the full price. The tragedy is the person who feels squeezed for years and never once understood why, never knew they had a choice at all. I want to talk about that last point, the children, because it comes up every single time, and it deserves honesty. Many people hold on to the big house specifically to leave it to their kids. It is a loving impulse, but I want to gently offer another way to see it. Would your children rather inherit a large house, along with all of its taxes and upkeep, and the difficult job of selling it while they grieve you? Or would they rather have seen you live your retirement in comfort and freedom, using your own money to enjoy the years you worked so hard for? Most children, the good ones, want their parents to be happy far more than they want to inherit a building. Do not squeeze your own retirement to hand down a house that your children may not even want, and may simply sell the moment they can. Talk to them. You may be surprised by what they say. Many parents are. Let me bring George and Helen back, because their story did not have to end in that quiet tightness. Eventually, they sat down and looked at it all honestly. The frozen wealth, the endless taxes and upkeep, the rooms they no longer entered, and they made a choice. They sold the big house, and they bought a smaller, bright, easy home nearby, close to the same friends and the same church. They took the enormous sum that had been sleeping in those walls, and they put it to work, and for the first time in years, that quiet tightness in their finances simply melted away. They traveled. They helped a grandchild. They stopped worrying every time the roof creaked. They told me later that their only regret was that they had not done it 5 years sooner, that they had spent 5 good years being house rich and life poor for no reason other than a story they had never thought to question. That is the whole point. Not that everyone should sell, but that everyone should see. Your home might be the best decision you ever made, and holding it might be exactly right for you, but you deserve to know what it is truly costing you, so that keeping it becomes a choice you make, rather than a default you never examined. I want to say one more thing about why this belief is so hard to question, because understanding that helps you think more freely. The idea that a paid-off house is the ultimate safety was largely true for our parents and grandparents. In a different time, with smaller homes, lower property taxes, and different lives. They were not wrong, but we inherited the belief without inheriting the conditions that made it true. Homes today are often far larger and far more expensive to run. Taxes and insurance have climbed, and we live longer retirements than any generation before us, which means more years of paying to hold that asset. The belief was sound advice once. The mistake is applying it, unexamined, to a world that has changed underneath it. Questioning it is not being reckless or ungrateful to what your parents taught you. It is simply doing what they did, which is looking clearly at your own real circumstances and making the wisest choice you can within them. So, let's bring it all together. Dead equity is the wealth frozen inside your paid-off home. Real money that sits there generating nothing while you may go without. On top of that, a large home costs you every year, in property taxes that never end, in rising insurance, in relentless maintenance, and in the upkeep of space you no longer use. The clear-eyed retiree has choices: to downsize and bring that money back to life, to carefully tap the equity while staying, with real caution and honest advice, or to keep the home fully, deliberately, knowing the price and deciding it is worth it. Every one of those can be the right answer. Only one thing is always wrong, and that is feeling squeezed for years without ever understanding why. It is, above all, a decision, one you are quietly making every single day you stay, whether you realize it or not. And it deserves to be made with open eyes. Before you go, tell me something in the comments. Are you holding on to a home that is larger than the life you actually live in it now? And if you are, have you ever truly added up what it costs you to keep it? Be honest with yourself. Most people never have, and there is no judgment here, only the invitation to finally look. And if you want the rest of these, the decisions that define your retirement, and the ones you can't undo, then subscribe and stay with me. There is a new file every week. The next one steps into a decision that catches people completely off guard, usually right when they think they are safe. It is about the cost of long-term care and the single rule that can quietly take the house and the savings you spent a lifetime building if you do not understand it in time. Take your time with these. They are the decisions of a lifetime, and a lifetime of work has earned them your patience.